Hello and welcome to the Being Human podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Bottaro, and today we are starting a little series giving you experiences from our graduates from our certification program, the CPMAP Certification Program. That stands for the CatholicPsych Model for Applied Personalism. And so we've had a lot of students coming through our program now. We're going into our third year since having launched our pilot. And we've had over 100 students enrolled. We've graduated our first classes, I should say. And so a lot of people are wondering, what is this whole thing about? And what can you do with a CatholicPsych certification? And so instead of me telling you about what you could do or what the possibilities are, we are really trying to transform our culture and the world through an integration of Catholic psychology. And so I want to share with you the stories, the real life experiences of real people who have gone through our certification, who have graduated, and are now doing amazing things in the world with it. So today, I'm really excited to have as a guest one of our original pilot students and graduates, somebody whom I've had on the show before. So you've heard her story already, and she shared a lot of her background in terms of missionary work she's done and some really tough circumstances of life that she had been through, and God's grace through all of that, and ultimately bringing her to CatholicPsych. But now we get to see the other side of things. This is not the end of her story, but the fulfillment and culmination of where we were in the last conversation. So you'll get to hear all about Johnna Sullivan and the work she's doing now as a mentor, having been certified from the CatholicPsych program. And so she'll share a little bit more about what the experience was like for her going through the program itself and now what she's up to. I hope you enjoy it. God bless you. I spent the last 10 years learning how to help people using the best techniques available in psychology integrated with the Catholic faith. Now we've figured out that there's a better way to help people than just slapping a Catholic label on the same secular model of therapy you find anywhere else. The real question is, how will we make this shift to a new model of truly Catholic accompaniment, keeping the psychological sciences in mind while opening up to a more human and more effective approach? This podcast is here to give you the answer. Join me and follow along as I take you behind the scenes of what this new model looks like, using recorded audio from sessions working with my team, with colleagues, and even directly with clients. My name is Dr. Greg Bottaro, and I want to welcome you to the Being Human podcast. Hello, Johnna. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
It's so good to see you. We're reminiscing about a previous episode. You've done a little bit more. You've come a long way since even when we recorded the last episode.
Yeah, it's
And
almost a year.
life is kind of different now.
Yes, it is definitely different now.
But I'm excited to hear more about what's happened since you've wrapped up the program and what you've been doing with your own mentorship and just check in on where life is at for you. But for people that did not listen to the previous episode, you gave a lot more background and history, and we'll link to that show as well. So if you want to hear more about it, it's a beautiful story of your work as a missionary and your own work and your self-growth, self-exploration, and just kind of discovering more about God and working in your life. I'll leave it there because it's a pretty intense story. There's a lot to it. But besides that, having graduated the certification program and now going into certified professional mentorship, did you ever think you were going to be here? Did you ever think this is what you're going to be doing?
Absolutely not. Like, no part of me ever thought I would be doing what I'm doing. But I think a huge part of me dreamed of doing this, but I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know what the thing I wanted was. And somehow, like, CPMAP just embodied all of it. And now I'm doing that very thing. So it's very out of body often. Like, I can't believe this is where
Well,
this is where I'm at.
I've heard you say that before, and I kind of want to press into that a little bit because I think, I don't know, my sense is that people probably can relate, but I just want to flesh it out a little bit more. Like, what's it like to have a sense of doing something, wanting to do something, desiring to do something, but not knowing what it is? What do you mean by that?
It's almost a nostalgic feeling for something that you've never had. So I know in my day to day, it was hard for me to access my dreams. That was a big thing that I was aware of. Like, I don't even know how to dream anymore. Just kind of where
Mm.
my story led me of not being able to envision what a future would look like. But I knew that I loved talking to people, and I knew that I loved connecting with people and holding their stories, and just kind of like that unfolding and untangling in my everyday relationships. And so I wanted to use that, but I didn't have any idea what that could mean or what that could look like. And I didn't want to go back to school. It wasn't a realistic possibility for me. I could have done it, of course, but I didn't want to go back to like traditional schooling. Um, and so I just kind of had it on the back burner, but I couldn't envision what that thing was. So, obviously it was very Holy Spirit led when you just this idea that you had, and then it reached me, and it has come together to be this thing that I have literally dreamed of and didn't know it. I don't know if that, I don't even really know how to explain it almost in a way, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I definitely can relate to this like longing for something, and then it's almost like it's outside the box. The path hasn't been paved. It's almost like there's just not a clear pathway that you've been taught or has been given to you, but there's still like a pull towards something. But it's
Yes.
interesting because I also feel like so many people go into, especially in undergrad, like psychology classes. People go into major in psychology, and you talk to students, and it's you hear, well, I just really love helping people. I love people always tell me I'm a good listener. And so not to invalidate that reality, but it sounds like what you're talking about is much deeper than that.
Yes. I think it was motivated by my own story and this darkness that I sat in for a long time. Like a memory specifically being when my son was like 4 years old, and just being up in the middle of the night with him and feeling the depth of despair and sorrow of not knowing where my life was going to go and how I was going to get through the thing that I was experiencing. And then to move through that and to be able to tap into or access or put on like the mercy of God and how much my life changed when his mercy was accessible. When I was able to reach out and take it and understand that he wanted to give his mercy. And so I think when I'm talking about listening and connecting with people, it's really like these dark corners of people that they feel like they can't carry anymore. Like, that's where I want to go because I want to shed a light onto that because I know what that felt like. So I think it's that.
Yeah, no, that's really beautiful. So it's really sharing God's mercy and giving what you've received, and then bringing hope to people that are in really dark places. I mean, despairing, really dark places, and having been a recipient of that kind of grace and that kind of mercy, that kind of light, it makes a lot of sense to just want to pour that out and give that to others. And then going back again to not knowing how you might do that or what that could look like, that longing was in you, and then you sort of, I guess, found a way to make it happen.
Yeah. And I'm definitely not someone who's going to go create a way. And so that's why it was really great. Like, I know about my skill set and things. I wasn't going to go start a school or have a new path. And so you do that. And so it was just perfect timing. It's very providential.
What? So tell me a little bit more. Like, where were you at? Like at the moment, and in your life, like where were you at in your life when I first reached out to you about starting this crazy new thing, doing this crazy new thing that we were starting?
Okay. So in that moment, I was battling the question of like, what comes next for me? What can I do for God, and how is my life going to be used? Really this question of purpose. I had dedicated myself to having jobs when my son was growing up that allowed me flexibility, but they always were very unfulfilling jobs. And, of course, some of the personal relationships that I built were great, but just wanting more, having been a missionary, having felt like I used to describe to people that I felt like I was living inside God's will. Like I was so in my element as a missionary that it felt just so fulfilling. And then entering into motherhood, coming from a place of trauma into motherhood, a long time to separate being a mom and also being me, and then also to integrate them together. So it was like I was in this place of how do I be me and follow my own dreams and discover my own dreams and pursue those things and have a purposeful, fulfilling life outside motherhood, but also within motherhood. And so it was amazing timing because it was right when my contract was going to be renewed or ending. And so I just was like, yep, let's do this. And that was my goal coming into it. Wasn't to even be doing this. It was like, maybe this will help me figure out what it is I'm supposed to be doing.
That's really beautiful. And actually, it's a really powerful testament to God's grace also working in your discernment. I mean, so many people are stuck in that place of a separation, a dichotomy between who I am for me and who I am in the responsibilities I have, the roles that I'm playing, like the obligations I've already found myself, signed up for. And it takes a lot of people a long time to work through to a place where those two can come together. Like God has a plan for us that brings together our deepest desires for ourselves with the calling that he's put in front of us through the practical circumstances of our lives. And I don't think a lot of people are naturally inclined to see those things integrated together. And a lot of us end up in these situations where it's like, all right, am I going to take care of myself today, or am I going to take care of everybody else? Am I going to fulfill my obligations and duties, or do I get like a mental health day, a self-care day, a vacation day? And there's like these two separated things. So to be able to be in a place where you're really digging deep into what you're made for, what you're called to, what's going to ultimately fulfill you, and then a very legitimate and practical and real life obligation of like, okay, you have your son you have to take care of. You need a job. You have to make money. You have to have time. You have to have flexibility. You have to have a lot. There are a lot of parameters around requirements on how to actually do what you need to do. So I just think that's a really beautiful place to see God working and helping you draw those things together. So you're invited to apply for this new program. It was very new at the time. Since then, we've graduated a bunch of students. We're not in pilot phase anymore. We're getting a little bit more official. But you started something that was definitely not official, and it was certainly in the pilot. And so, yeah, what were your initial concerns, thoughts, questions before joining up?
I mean, I think there was the grace of having peace to be a part of it. So I had peace throughout it, either way. Like I knew I was where I was supposed to be. And so there was that piece that kind of was able to just cover everything. But yeah, there were a ton of fears. I mean, I trusted you because I knew you. And so there was already a trust there of like, I'm not going to be led down something that's bad. So I was able to surrender to a certain point with that. But then, financially wondering like, how am I going to do this? Not knowing how the workload was going to be, and discipline, capability, what was it going to look like for me to perform and show up in a way and use my mind in a way I hadn't used in a long time, to really challenge myself and be okay with that. When I finished, like what was going to come after it, those were all my fears that definitely were with me throughout most of it.
Yeah, and those are understandable fears. I mean, the elephant in the room here is our program does not help people train people to get a license in mental health. And so many people have this idea in their mind that they have to get a license. So you have to get a degree that will get you a license in order to practice as a therapist. That's the path to, living this kind of vocation of helping people. And that's not what we're offering. That's not what we're proposing. So it's an understandable fear, thinking about how this is going to pan out financially. And we can get to that too. But you see, you had those initial concerns. You trusted me. By the way, for anybody listening, if you're ever going to think about doing a startup of anything, you always start with friends and family. That's the best way to go. If you're gonna launch something new or gonna do something new, before you have social proof and testimonials and a validated track record, you go to friends and family, because at least they know your heart's in the right place. So thank you, Johnna, for trusting me. That was definitely one of the God's graces that he gave me, was having people that knew me and at least could trust my intention for what we were setting out to do here. But so you jumped in, and I want to hear more about your experience, like in the program, than actually going through. What was surprising to you? What was challenging for you? What did you work through? What was it like?
Oh gosh, what did I work through? Okay. So having a mentor was, yeah, it was life-changing. It definitely was. So much that gets buried in our day. And I think like we were talking about before, trying to in our own identity, there's so much that could be an escape for that. Like people escapes as this way of connecting with themselves, but really just ends up being an escape. And I think even with, working out and reading and I love to do, a lot of it was just to avoid looking at the deeper pain and questions that were still sitting beneath the surface. So having Teresa as a mentor and being able to go safely to those places and ask the questions that I hadn't wanted to ask myself, and face things that my parts like did not want to face. I didn't want to go to certain places. Being able to do that in this environment that was like sacred, treasured, and is so safe. That's really the word that comes up a lot when I think back of CPMAP. It was so safe. So I was able to work through a lot with grief, grief of lost dreams, and grief of what I thought my life would look like, and grief losing my dad, to the way that I lost him, and all these different things that I've just buried. And when those things were able to come to the surface, it was like I was able to emerge. These parts of me that I haven't been able to access were able to be seen, and then not just seen, but loved and welcomed. So it's been a journey, and that has continued. Like that has not stopped. It's only been good things in that regard. Like it's just so much aware of things, being able to see things. And then for the schooling, I think the expectation that I didn't have to be perfect, and that I could really learn. Like you gave us the opportunity to learn and to soak it in and to ask questions. And I think risk. I was able to take more risk. I wasn't afraid of failing. And there really wasn't a concept of failing. Like it was almost this like, well, who cares if you don't get it right or you don't understand? Just talk to someone, ask. So I don't even know what the original question was, if I'm being honest. So I kind of got off track.
Well, just in general, your experience in the program, that's a lot of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And feeling like I wasn't equipped. And then over time, feeling more and more equipped and just more open to the Holy Spirit and just the present moment, like what's going to happen is going to happen, and trusting myself more, an increase in trust in myself. So
Was it more work than you'd anticipated academically?
yeah. Mm-hmm. It was, but I loved it. I loved the work, and that really
And
shocked me.
so it sounds like it was more internal work than you necessarily were anticipating. It was more academic work than you were necessarily anticipating, but you said it felt safe. That was a good place to process a lot of that.
Yes, and it didn't feel overwhelming. Yes, it felt like more work, but it didn't overwhelm, and the work was so enjoyable. So it was like it was great.
So then you started to think about what you're going to do. A big part of the program is the capstone, and that's in the final quarter when I work personally with every student, at least for the pilot program, and coming up with sort of what you're going to do with this now in the real world, how you're going to take this and do something meaningful, and if it's your vocation, profitable, and be able to actually turn this into a life, an income, and make it sustainable. Were you sort of anticipating? At what point were you anticipating that this was what you were going to do professionally?
I think when we hit the third quarter, I realized like there's no way I could do anything else. That this is what I'm called to, and I want to do it professionally, and I wanted to only do this. Like I want to really throw myself into this and make it the best that I could, because I loved it. You know, once we started working with students, or once we started working with clients as a student, that changed it for me. Like, how could I go back and do something else when like this is so good? So then I started to know, like, all right, I'm going to have to make this work financially too.
So how's that going?
It's going much better than I thought that it was going to go. And it's what I have learned is that the opportunity is there, and the ability to financially not just make it by, but be like financially successful, and abundance coming from that it's there. And so I'm able to tap into that, you know, some days, and then some days I'm not. And it's an up and down of, am I going to do the things I need to do in order to get to the set? And so that's been a work in progress, and I'm moving closer and closer to just being able to fully and be like, this is what I'm doing, and embracing it. But it has been financially rewarding for me, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are surprised when they realize, number one, the cost of our program is so much less than getting like a master's in counseling, but the return on the lower amount is actually higher. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, it takes less time to go through our program, so you start making money sooner than if you had gone to get a master's degree someplace. And typically the cost of those master's degrees require student loans or a crazy amount of money. And it takes you longer to start making money, and then you are paying back loans while you're starting to make money. Like, it's a long time before you're actually starting to make a positive income. And with our program, we're not only taking less time, but it can cost less, but we're also teaching you directly how to have a sustainable income by building out a business plan and actually working through it. And so this is what people can't appreciate unless you go into a master's or doctoral program. But, I had like one day of like a talk on like business plan considerations or like how to start a business. But like, it's insane. You graduate, unless you go get a job someplace, if you're going to be in practice, you're starting a business. Like this, I never thought about this as going into school. It's like, if you're going to be a therapist or psychologist, if you're going to have a private practice, you're literally a business owner. And like, I just kind of glossed over that until, you graduate and it's like, oh, wait a minute, I have to go rent an office. Now you're looking for an office space and it's like, what's the name of your company? Who's your business insurance? Like, what is your liability insurance? Da-da-da. And like, is there a difference between liability insurance and business insurance? I didn't know that. Like, where's that class? I never learned any of this stuff. How do you figure out what business entity you want to get established? I'm like, well, business, what are you even talking about? Like, it's unbelievable. So we actually spend an entire quarter just developing a business plan and figuring out what's right for every single person. And besides that, again, just like the program itself, besides for the academic, intellectual information, there's also the personal experience and the interior formation that's happening in this process. So the other thing that happens when we hit capstone is all sorts of stuff comes up for people. And usually stuff around making money or money business type things. And you're smiling because you know that this is some of our individual conversation that we had at that time. But I'm saying all of this right now to let you know, like, that's a normal conversation that almost everybody has at some point. So yeah, I just wanted to break that open a little bit more. Like, what was your experience kind of going through a process of learning what's useful for having a sustainable income, but then also like what came up for you that was getting in the way, that actually was coming from internally for you?
Yeah, so a lot. My money and you were like, yeah, not everyone feels that way about money. It's like, oh, my own set of beliefs on like what was going to be possible for me, and I struggled with money in the past, having a really hard time putting myself out there. And that first step was getting that what I am doing is good and it's worth it. And pass that hurdle, I think also, like, as I started to get clients, realizing people really want this and they want to be on this journey and they want to be doing this work. And the pushback was very real for, just people wanting to sign up and enter into it. So I've been learning as I go, that part of me that thinks that money is going to be a lot harder than maybe it has to be. It still gets in the way all the time. But you guys were giving us, I just had to take it. You kept saying, like, we can help you with this and we can help you with that. Even this week, I had a meeting with someone else in CatholicPsych to help me with marketing and all of these things. Like, it's all there. I just had to get out of my own way. And I had to be willing to also embrace my own story and tell my own story and put myself out there in a way that is vulnerable and is stretching me, but seeing the fruit of that. So yeah, it was hard. Some of those things. And I still work with them. I have like a give up part, which you saw a lot towards the end. Good, I'm out. I need that. And so I could get by that, there was success and goodness on that.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so wonderful to see you overcoming those things and to be a part of people's story in that way, because I've been in the same place myself, and I've had people help me, and I've helped people get me over the hump and get through the give up parts. And I've had my give up part has showed up this week also. Let's just put it that way. Because like we're all at different places, and we have our own ways of dealing with stuff. But I'm so grateful to have received what I have, and to be able to give it forth, and then for you to receive it, and then for you to give it forth. It's just a beautiful story, and this is God's plan. And so, yeah, and the money belief thing is like, it's funny because it's not even, you hear some of these gurus talk about this stuff, and like all these like coaches and all this stuff, and it's like they focus all in on money, and it's like money is the thing. And they're not right in their intention and their goal, and at least in the way that they're coming across, but they're not wrong in a lot of the components of what they're saying. So it's really cool when you can find out, like, well, there's a lot of psychology in that. There's also a lot of spirituality in that, in the sense that how we use this tool makes it good or bad. It's not the tool itself. And I heard a Catholic entrepreneur speaker once say that that money and finance is a lot like sexuality, and in the way that it's taught, in the way that it's misunderstood, and it has a significant benefit and a significant potential for great good, and also because of that, a really significant benefit for great evil. And he said, but just like the church has now the theology of the body, which helps to restore the beauty and goodness of sexuality so that we can know how to navigate that. He was saying we really need like a renewal of our understanding of finances and money and like that kind of thing. And so, and they're obviously, it's just an analogy, they're not close to the same level of value, but the fact is, like, if we understand how to use money correctly, then it can do great good. And it's not even just using it as a tool, but just the very thing of what it is. It's really just an indication of exchanging value of something that's good for us for something else. And I remember I was hearing this once in somebody talking about spending money on something, and it was like, so you have in your pocket, let's say $100, and I have a thing that I'm charging $100 for. So the question is, what do you value more? The $100 bill that's in your pocket, or the thing that I'm offering you? And if you have something to offer that is more valuable than than a piece of paper with the number 100 written on it in your pocket, like, marketing is essentially then just communicating what the value is, and then leave it up to people to decide what's more important to me, this piece of paper in my pocket or the thing that you're offering to exchange it for. And when we're talking about overcoming some of life's greatest obstacles, finding freedom in our life, and becoming the best version of ourselves who God created us to become, if what we're offering through our mentorship is the kind of relationship that accompanies people and unlocks that for people, I mean, how valuable is that? So this is a lot of that money mindset stuff that gets in the way. It's really about value, and it's really about, like, all right, what do you have to offer then? Like, can you actually help somebody get past these hurdles in their life? Is that really what you're proposing your vocation is now? And, it goes past that first inkling of, like, people tell me I'm a really good listener and I want to do this now professionally. I want to spend my life doing this, to, like, I can really help people. And I'm going to spend my life doing that. I'm going to make significant sacrifices to do that for other people. like, of course we should. And then we also need an income. Like, we have to be able to make money. So, like, I don't want to do that on the side while I'm also like doing my regular job so that I can make money, put food on the table. And then I only have like 10 hours a week left over to actually serve people. What if I could actually do that with all of my time? And now you're stepping into that world, which is awesome to see that.
Yeah, I've decided the it's worth it because I'm not getting another job. I'm just focusing on this. I'm going all in, and I'm willing to also continue forever to be working on myself and growing myself so that I can be what I'm saying that I am, that I can do, that I can walk with you, that I'm equipped to walk with you. And that means constantly also looking back on who I am and what I'm doing. And so it's almost like the money comes and goes, and money becomes so secondary when I can just focus on what it is that and really enhance that and let that lead me. Like really myself where the places that I actually want to be going are,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the self-growth is such a huge benefit. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, the money comes and goes. Like St. Paul. Like, you could live with money, you could live without money, be rich, be poor. But at the end of the day, like, are you growing in virtue and holiness? Are you growing in self-awareness? Are you becoming a greater gift of self to others? Are you decreasing so that Christ can increase? That's really what it's all about. And what an awesome vocation he's given us, that's pretty much like our main core focus of our work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about that. Like, people go, accountants, God bless the accountants. But like, professional development for an accountant is like learning a new accounting software, like learning new accounting regulations and legal, changes. Professional development for us is growing in self-awareness so that we could become a greater gift of self to others.
Mm-hmm.
How amazing is that?
It's incredible.
Pretty cool. Well, you are available now as a professionally certified Catholic psych mentor. You're giving talks at different parishes. I know you've been working with different priests in the area locally here or in Connecticut. Anybody listening in Connecticut, if you want to bring Johnna to the parish, I'm pretty sure she'd be willing to get on a plane too. So anywhere that, what else are you doing to get yourself out there and to share with the world with what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm writing a lot. And so even though you were like, don't focus on a book, it's like, I'm going to focus on a book right now. And so it's just kind of like poured out of me. And so I feel like
Nice.
it's going to be a little short story that I'm going to have. And, just a blog, talking to people, connecting with other Catholic business owners, letting them know what it is I do. I really feel moved to work with single parents and help with co-parenting, divorced parents, that whole world that can sometimes they don't have a place maybe in the church or their communities. Just tapping into all these things, really just telling people about what mentorship is. And that alone, it just moves people. People are drawn to it and people are talking about it. So yeah, just trying to connect in different places that I can.
That's awesome. And we'll have links to all your stuff in the show notes here. And when are you gonna have a book ready?
My goal is to have it there by Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, we'll have you back on and we'll talk about it at Thanksgiving then.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Great. Well, check out the notes for links. Johnna, it was awesome having you on again. Great to see you. And thank you for sharing so much of what God has been doing in your life with our audience here. And until next time, God bless you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Being Human podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to help us spread the word and hear more, please head over to iTunes, leave us a review, and subscribe, as it really helps us to get our content out to more people. Be sure to listen next time as I take you deeper into what it means to be human. If you want more free content and information about what we do at the Catholic Psych Institute, head on over to CatholicPsych.com. God bless you.